It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay, welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. I'm the president of Opperman Investigations and Digital Forensic Consulting. You can find a link to my work at emailrevealer.com. Get a copy of my book, an autographed copy, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. Also, all kinds of stuff, adoption investigations, email tracing, online infidelity investigations. You give us your spouse's email address, we trace it back to online dating websites, catch them cheating online. This show is brought to you by GetTheTea.com, Life Change Tea. Oh boy. Hey, good old Ronnie from Life Change Tea just sent me some supplements. He sent me more tea because I was ran out of tea. I'm drinking this stuff down. But he just sent me some supplements too. And I'm like shot out of a cannon. Let me tell you, I'm losing weight with this tea. It definitely, it'll clear up your complexion, better digestion. Life Change Tea really has changed my life. Since I started drinking this tea, I've been on the Daniel fast about 30 days, but I'm swimming every day. Yesterday I went on a bike ride and a hike. Losing weight, feeling good, putting years on my life. Life Change Tea at GetTheTea.com. And also, to check out those supplements. I'll have the name for you next time I come on the line. Because I didn't write it down for today's show. We got with us today Cutter Wood. And he's written this book, which is has huge critical acclaim. Every review is a top number 5 review on Amazon. Love and Death in the Sunshine State, the story of... What? I think cut off. It says the story of a crime. What is it? Love and Death in the Sunshine State. Yeah, the story of a crime. Hey, Cutter Wood, are you there?
I'm here. Thanks for having me, Ed.
Yeah, thank you so much. Tell us about yourself. Who is Cutter Wood?
That's a scary question.
Yeah.
I'm a writer, I guess. When I got involved in this story, actually, I just graduated college, really was kind of trying to find my way in the world, was waiting tables. And since I've written this book, I've kind of moved forward and just gone in the direction of a career in writing. I went to graduate school for it out in Iowa, and now living in New York City, quite happily with my wife and my brand new daughter.
Oh, very nice. Okay, so then this book just totally took off, and now you're a full-time writer.
Yeah, it's been a wild ride. It's been great so far.
Okay, great. Now, I was reading the description, and it's a story about this murder of this woman, Sabine Buehler, I guess it's pronounced. But you were staying at that motel?
Yeah, so this is one of the strangest parts of this whole story. I'm, a recent graduate of college. I'm waiting tables, not really sure what I'm doing with my life. I go down to Florida, this little tiny island called Anna Maria. It's this very beautiful, beachy, touristy island, just to visit some family, and there's no place to stay with the family. So I just grab a room at this little, very lovely, but inexpensive motel on the beach, and don't think anything of it. It's a very nice place. It's a little eccentric. They've got some kind of crazy decorations up. There's a big green macaw in the office that's screaming its head off all the time and saying all kinds of funny things. I don't think a lot about it though. I stay there. I visit my family. I go back home and decide I'm never going to go to Florida again. It's not my thing. And then a few months later, I get this clipping in the mail from my mom, actually, that shows this motel just covered in flames. And is, very much kind of a Capote moment for me, where I thought, what is going on here? Especially doubly so because I'd just been a guest there. As I look into the story, it turns out one of the motel's owners, this woman who's actually there when I stayed there, Sabine Musil-Buehler, had disappeared, just gone completely missing. And this was on election night 2008, actually. So she disappeared election night, which is a Tuesday. Wednesday, she was off work, so nobody realized anything was up. And Thursday morning, the police stopped this car driving around on the mainland. It's a white Pontiac convertible. They pulled over to the side of the road and start running the plates. They realize it belongs to this woman, Sabine Musil-Buehler. And just as they're about to approach it, a man hops out and sprints away, which is always sets off some alarms, right? Not a good sign.
He doesn't want that ticket. He really doesn't want that ticket. So he takes off.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things where one of the kind of amazing things where like a huge case all comes from a broken taillight, right?
Yeah.
So they track this guy down. He's lying underneath a pickup truck. They bring him out. His name's Robert Corona, and they called this woman's house to see if she had permission to use her car. They reach her husband, who says, basically, if somebody else was driving my wife's car, she's dead. And that sets off this mad search for this woman. It was really kind of one that was very confusing, right? Because they had no body, they had no murder weapon, they had this car, which as time went on, they realized had some of her blood in it. But they had these three men. This man who was driving the car, her husband, and also she'd become estranged from that husband, and she had a boyfriend. So they have these three men, but none of them have like a really great motive in the whole thing. So I was just really totally sucked into this thing, trying to figure out who this woman was and what had happened to her.
Well, give us an idea. How did they find out she had a boyfriend? The husband knew because they were estranged?
Yeah. So the boyfriend in this thing, the husband knew that she had a boyfriend. They were actually, living not far from each other on this island. And the boyfriend, in fact, had a history of arson. So, 2 weeks later after her disappearance, the police are still puzzling this thing over. Somebody sets the motel on fire. And you can imagine what kind of alarm bells that set off for the police at that point in time. They felt very strongly that some kind of thing was playing itself out still, and they really weren't sure what. And it made the case that much more confusing. Why 2 weeks later, this woman's somebody would think that, would still be in such turmoil that they would set fire to this motel.
Yeah, after the heat was already on, so to speak, right? The guy is making his case worse.
That's the strange thing, is that there really wasn't heat on. There was when they looked at the motel and the fire marshal investigated that, no evidence there to be disposed of, no body, of course. And it just seemed to be this purely emotional thing that whoever had set it on fire, and I should say the fire still, nobody's ever discovered exactly who set the fire. The fire is still very confusing. It's what kind of drew me through this entire project, actually trying to understand the mind of a person who would be still so torn up about a relationship that 2 weeks later they would still want to go back and destroy something that belonged to the woman they loved.
When you checked into the hotel, did you meet Sabine?
It's something I've asked myself a million times. I feel certain that she was there. When I draw that moment up in my mind, I remember somebody standing there beside the bird cage when I arrived. But, that was before anything had happened, before, when I was just there visiting some family, so I can't say for sure. But I feel now, and this is kind of the craziest part, I spent so long with this case. It took, I guess, almost 7 years to come to any resolution. And I spent a lot of time talking to people who knew her very well. I sat down and spoke with her brother, who had traveled from Germany to talk with me and to kind of memorialize her once it seemed certain that she was gone. And, you uncover this human being and you do very much start to feel like there's someone that there's someone in your own life. She was this very fascinating and really caring, loving, but also strong-willed person that really kind of captivated my mind. And of course, because your kind of daily life and daily thinking is so involved in a case like this, you do start to internalize them. Then she was showing up in my dreams. I was having these terrible nightmares that I would, be at an opera and I'd turn to the side and Sabine would be there with me, things like that.
Interesting, because the book's been compared to In Cold Blood by Truman Capote. The same kind of thing. You really threw your whole life into this. it kind of destroyed his life, by the way, too. His life kind of went downhill after that. How you hold it up? You okay?
I feel okay. There were some dark days.
Yeah.
When I first went down there, I didn't think it was going to be this huge book project. I thought I might write, first I was just curious, and I thought maybe I'd write a short article about it. It was this just a fascinating occurrence, right? Mm-hmm. I get down there, and the detectives have a backhoe out on the beach, one of the most popular tourist beaches around. And they've got a professor of archaeology and cadaver dogs, and they're just digging a huge hole, hoping they luck upon a body, right? And these tourists they're not sitting there facing the ocean going swimming. They've taken all their chairs and they're sitting in a circle around this hole looking to see what happens. And the people who lived on the island were really deeply affected by it mentally. They were seeing this woman everywhere. They thought they saw her at the convenience store and the orthodontist. Somebody saw her getting on a flight. One woman I spoke to said that Sabine had gone to the afterlife, but was going to be in touch through her pet parrot telepathically. So it had really just captured people's minds and got mine too. And when I first thought I was going to write something, it was a much smaller piece, really about the effect that the loss of a human being can have on a community. And it was only as I got down there and started talking to people and feeling like I kind of had a duty to see this thing through. That's only when I realized it was a book project. And that's also when it started to affect me a lot personally.
Now, did we ever find out how this came about, how she was murdered, how this car thief was Robert Corona wound up with a car? And what? Yeah,
so all of that it was very much a mystery for, like I said, almost 7 years. And it did finally, I had long ago given up that this case was ever going to be resolved. I thought it was just going to be kind of like a dark part of my own personal past. And then one morning, out of nowhere, almost 7 years today since she's disappeared. In the span of the morning, everything came to fruition. Everything became clear. And the wildest part of all that was, by that time, I'd been going down to Florida regularly, talking to people about this. And by that time, I'd developed a relationship with a man who committed the crime.
Really?
So I went right down, and he was being held in the Manatee County Jail then. Sat down with him for about a week straight. And, I'd talked to him a million times about what had happened that night and about their relationship. And finally, he gave me the real story, as close as the real story you can get. Told me everything from seeing this one for the first time, falling in love with her, to, the troubles and difficulties of living together as a couple, to this final night and doing this terrible thing that he never would have thought himself capable of. And then everything after that, and the desperate rush to try and cover up what he'd done. So that was perhaps when everything took the darkest turn for me. I'd at that point, I'd been involved so long, I'd thought so much about this, and to finally, but I'd still never, I guess, really faced up to the awful thing that had happened. And to finally have to face that and sit down across from someone and hear them say the words, which is just something that never happens in your normal life, that was really, really hard for me. And I think and I don't want to belittle the feelings of people really directly involved in the case, but you can't hear those kinds of things without feeling pretty deeply affected. And I think that's really kind of what drives the book is having that closeness to the events of the case. But for me, it just, after going through these interviews, I would drive back to my little place on the island and lock all the doors and pull the curtains and pour myself a glass of whiskey and try to go to sleep.
Yeah, I can definitely relate to what you're saying. And as a matter of fact, I've done whole interviews on this show that just turned out where me and the guests just sit around talking about PTSD and then the experiences, our reaction to dealing with these horrible stories you hear over and over. Yeah. But I got a couple of questions for you. Now, you were in there interviewing the boyfriend every day while he's there in the jail waiting trial. He didn't have a lawyer tell him to shut up and not talk to you?
Well, this is when, so we talked a lot of times. He was actually in prison for part of it and in jail for part of it for a previous crime that he'd violated the parole on.
Okay.
And he was just, I think the boyfriend kind of felt like he'd been maligned by the media and then been, subjected to trial by newspaper. So I think he was probably maybe a little lonely, like a lot of people in prison, and two, very anxious to get his side of the story out. So, he was more than happy to talk. And when he finally did kind of walk me through the actual story of what had happened, by that point, everything was a done deal. He'd gotten his sentence and there wasn't much danger in him telling me more.
So he pretty much, he confessed and pled guilty.
Correct.
One thing I'm curious
in what's that?
Well, one thing I'm curious about is, but why don't you finish what you're going to say?
No, go ahead.
How did this Robert Corona get a hold of the car?
So that's a strange case. He originally, he's picked up driving a car, which is obviously not his, and runs away. I think there might have been some drugs in the car or something as well. And doing what I suspect most people might do if they were in that situation, he tried to play it off. They asked him if he knew Sabine Musil-Buehler, and he said, "Oh yeah, of course, yeah. I was just with her. We were just partying. She loaned me the car." Which, when they first heard that, they kind of said, "Okay, whatever." And as time went on, and it turned out that this was becoming a homicide investigation, those words very quickly came back to haunt him, right? Because that was going to make him the last person to see this woman alive. And the transcripts of the interview where the detective, this guy's been visited over and over again by detectives, and they keep asking about the details of the story, trying to get more and more. And, he thinks by sticking to his story that he's saving his own hide. And it isn't until finally, the big head honcho detective comes in and lays it all out for him that his story means he was the last person to see a murdered woman alive, that he kind of just breaks when you read the transcript of this. It's pretty, both a little funny and a little heartbreaking. He says something like, "For real? You're serious?" And, within 30 seconds, he's taken it all back and pled to grand theft auto as opposed to facing down a possible homicide charge. And his story then, and all this stuff, I think, is you do a lot of times get a confession. You never know the exact truth. But his story then was he was looking for loose change in cars outside this bar, found this car sitting there, windows down, unlocked, keys in the ignition, and thought he would just go for a joyride. Why not? It's a white convertible. Never looked in the back seat, never saw that the seat had been cut out and there was blood around the area that had been cut. Never looked at the seatbelt and saw if there was blood on the seatbelt or blood on the trunk. And so it really just found himself, according to him, in the most extreme circumstance of in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Now, at that point, when he got pulled over for the stolen car, had they found Sabine's body by that time?
No, they didn't find Sabina's body for 7 years. She was missing. So they found the car 2 days after she disappeared, but this case was very much up in the air for an entire 7 years. It was very much a cold case.
Okay, it's a good time to take a little break here. We're with Cutter Wood, Love and Death in the Sunshine State, the story of a crime. And his website is cutterwood.com. And he has some appearances coming up, and you can find all the dates and locations on the website, cutterwood.com. But in Florida and stuff like that, book signings and readings and stuff like that. So check out cutterwood.com. We'll be right with more of Cutterwood after these messages. And now a word from our sponsors.
Hi, folks. Ronnie here from Life Change Tea. There's a lot of hubbub about the ramifications of GMOs. First of all, what are GMOs? Genetically modified organisms. Yee! Man-made organisms entering our body, changing and damaging us from the inside out. What's our defense? First of all, not eating them. Second, cleansing from them when we do eat them. Thank God for Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea cleanses from toxins, heavy metals, and helps flush GMOs out of your body. Our unique blend of herbs help cleanse you from the inside out, helping you feel refreshed and clean of yee. We also carry unique one-of-a-kind supplements. So order online at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Rid yourself of the yee that contaminates your food and water. Go to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Get the tea, your best defense.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Cutter Wood. He's the author of Love and Death in the Sunshine State, The Story of a Crime. His website is cutterwood.com, and he's got some appearances coming up. You can meet him in person down there in Florida. Now, I'm reading the reviews, and it was saying that the book is not so much of a who done it, but of a why done it. It's a crime of passion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right. It's a crime of passion. But did he tell you what happened?
Well, I don't want to get into too much detail, I guess, since that is what the book's about. But, I think this is a big part of what made it so fascinating to me, because it's not just about it's about the whole trajectory of a relationship from those kind of very heady first days where everything seems great and full of possibility, and you decide you're in love and you're going to move in together and you're going to live together in Florida and have this fantastic life. And then through that whole vision falling apart, which is, I think a familiar thing for a lot of people, even if it doesn't fall apart, definitely the struggles of a relationship are very familiar with a lot of people. And I think also a thing that's particularly specific to Florida, where people go with these real hopes and visions for their future that don't always come to fruition. So it follows through that. And then you kind of see all these little pieces kind of falling apart in the relationship and stuff getting caught in the gears. Everything from having trouble getting along with each other's friends to arguing about driving the car to arguing about drinking, things like that. And the final culminating thing in this whole relationship was just a small, minor argument about having a cigarette. The man had gone outside to have a smoke, and he had given up smoking for Sabina's birthday. She smelled the cigarette smoke on him when he came back in. And for her, that was just kind of the final straw. She said she was leaving and he lost it. And, this kind of slowly bubbling, simmering argument just burst into a much bigger thing. And then too, I think as fascinating as all that is too, is what happens in a person's mind afterwards. when you realize you've done something horrific, something, that you can never take back, something that's not only lawfully wrong, but ethically and morally wrong. And so, to hear his descriptions of coming to terms with what he'd done and trying to figure out what he could do afterwards, how he could keep from getting in trouble for this, that was one of the strangest and most disturbing and also most fascinating parts, looking down at this body and thinking, my God, I've got to do something. I've got to do something, but not being able to figure out what to do. And this terrible turmoil, which even once he disposed of the body, even once time had gone past and it seemed like he was going to get away with the crime, was still at work in him.
Yeah, I've heard those confessions, and there's so much regret, there's so much guilt, and self-sabotage too. People, you just see them sabotage themselves over and over. What?
Oh, yeah.
Why did he go back and burn the place down when he was?
Well, like I said, it's never been. The statute of limitations is out on that now.
Okay.
There's no danger of anybody going to prison for it, but it's never been established if it was him. It's certainly. The boyfriend was a very strong suspect for that because he had a history of arson. He'd previously set fire to another woman's house. But, if it was him, it really doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
If you think that he was guilty of this murder and it's been 2 weeks, they've got nothing, they've got no body, no murder weapon, very little actual evidence. And then to think, well, I might have gotten away with this, but to still be so, I can't, it still is hard for me to put myself in a headspace where I would think this is what I need to do is go back and make another statement. It's almost like he hadn't done enough to her or something, So it's perplexing. I don't think there will ever be an answer. I think even if whoever set that fire could tell me today why in their mind they said it, I'm not sure I would believe them because it wouldn't make any sense.
Yeah, there's that self-destructive element, in these people. They just want to sabotage themselves, just make things worse. I just see it so many times. It's funny too how you mentioned too about how people, they want to go to Florida and change their life, because I live in Vegas. Yeah. It's the same thing here. We got these people, I'm going to make a new start, go to Vegas and it hardly ever turns out well.
I know that was also a big part of what really kind of drew me to this case is just, that was such a familiar refrain in my life. I grew up working in restaurants. I was working in restaurants when I got out of college and stumbled on this. And, if you've ever sat at a table of wait staff after a night at the restaurant while everybody's counting their tips, half of those people are talking about going to Florida or California or Vegas.
Yeah.
They say, oh, once I pull together $600 or $2,000, I'm making a break for Florida. And Florida to me was especially fascinating just because I'm from the East Coast, I'm from Pennsylvania. William Cumber, this boyfriend, was from Ohio, not so far away. And people, I feel like, go to Florida for a very specific reason, which is a little bit different from Vegas and California. You go to California if you want this bohemian lifestyle and you want to go to Hollywood and all that kind of stuff, right? And it's harder to go to California if you're from the East Coast.
Right.
It takes more gas. It takes more organization. Whereas Florida, you just need 2 tanks of gas. You need your first month's rent. And you can do it. So folks, I think, end up down in Florida with a lot less planning in my experience. And when I was getting into this case, I really felt that vibe, that sense of a lot of the people I was talking to. It's amazing when you go to any place in Florida, almost no one is from there. And a lot of people showed up there with almost no forethought. They did just, at the end of one night, they were like, I can't stand the cold anymore. Got in their car and went to Florida and never looked back.
Yeah, it's funny. Just the other day I was thinking about, because I grew up in Staten Island, and I had these neighbors. I guess they were like 14, 15 years old back in the 70s. and they would run away and go to Florida. And they made it down there. They made it down there a bunch of times, but it's kind of like the last stop. So once you're down there, you're kind of stuck.
Yeah. I knew a kid in middle school who stole his dad's car and got in an accident before he left the driveway, but was still most of the way to Florida before the cops got him.
Yeah. Well, these guys actually made it down there quite a few times. They kept running away, and their life didn't turn out so great either. Now, how did this affect you, man? I know this kind of thing has a toll on you in your life. And in the book, you get into all that too. A lot of this book is about your personal life and looking into this crime and living it, meeting all the people.
Yeah, it was really strange. You can't, like I said, you can't, you get into something like this, and I'm guessing you've had this experience, and you don't necessarily right off the bat expect it to become a huge part of your life.
Right.
And then the more time you spend with it, the deeper it goes, and I remember sitting across from this missing woman's brother, looking at basically like childhood photos of her with him, and just seeing the muscles in his jaw just clenching and unclenching the entire time, clenching and unclenching. And he almost couldn't even, he was telling me what the photographs were of. This is a picture of Sabine in a hailstorm. This is a picture of Sabine at a birthday party. This is a picture of Sabine at a fur coat, but he couldn't actually talk to me about who she was as a person. When I finally pressed him on that, all he could get out really was, she was punctual, which is this crazy thing to say about someone who has been missing at that point in time for years. So it really started to weigh in my thinking, and as I'm down there talking to people and hearing about this woman's relationships, and particularly this relationship with this boyfriend where they'd moved in 2 months before she disappeared, and things had very rapidly gone downhill. In my own life, I think I'm 23 or 24 at the time. I had just moved in with my girlfriend, now my wife, very thankfully. And I was finding it a lot harder than I'd ever been prepared for. Nobody told me that living together was going to be hard. I thought, I love this woman. We'll just move in and things will go from there. But it was actually a lot of work, just those small things of you get up in the morning and there's still dishes in the sink, or you trip over somebody's shoes, or you go to take a shower and the drain is clogged with hair. And those aren't to say that those are all things that she did. A lot of those were me. But these little stresses just mount, and you're not really prepared for how to talk about them or understand what's going on. And so I was finding it very easy to just be extremely frustrated with somebody I love deeply. And so as I'm hearing what was going on in their relationship, and that they were actually going through some of the same stuff, it really made me feel like I needed to reflect on my own and try to figure out what I could do to be a better person and a better boyfriend, and now a better husband to the woman that I loved.
Yeah, even especially when you're young too, new relationships, even if everything's going smooth, even if you're not losing your job and you're not getting fired, and the in-laws aren't sticking their nose in, it's still so much compromise, and
yeah, and it's like compromise squared, right?
Yeah, right.
You compromise on compromises, and you compromise on those compromises. And you do. So I'll tell you, when I was researching this, I stumbled on this old affidavit from one of William Cumber. That was the boyfriend's name. One of his previous crimes, he'd assaulted someone, and when he assaulted them, in this affidavit, it said he had them by the throat, and he said, "Why do you defy me?" And it was this weird, this is not what this guy sounds like in person, right? It has this like strange biblical sound to it, and also this strange like impotence and powerlessness, of why aren't things going the way I expected them to go? And those words were just always ringing in my head as I was in my own relationship, because it is kind of that feeling of finding yourself compromised and not knowing where it will ever end, or, what is under your control anymore. So there are lots of times it almost, it's a little disturbing, but there were lots of times in my own life where I felt like I was kind of mentally raising my fist at the sky and saying, why do you defy me? And it was so strange to think that this kind of emotion that I'd learned about from a murderer also kind of applied to my own life.
So you think it was good, like a relationship therapy for you, that you go out and kill your girlfriend and set fire to her house?
That sounds crazy to say, you know, but I do actually.
Yeah.
And that's really a lot of what kept driving me to this book. You know, it's fascinating to me what goes on in somebody's brain when they do something extreme and terrible like this, commit a murder. But it's just as fascinating to me what goes on in somebody's brain when they commit some kind of small, mindless unkindness. You know, I see this stuff. You can't go out to dinner at a restaurant without seeing a couple having a small, pointless bickering session, right? You know, maybe even just not talking to each other. That alone says something about a relationship.
Right.
You know, so you become aware of these little things, the kind of fraying of the fabric of two people. So yeah, it was super enlightening for me. And you know, part of the reason I wrote the book is that I hope it shows how you don't need to be a murderer to still do things that you should regret in your own relationships.
Yeah, you know, you're absolutely right, man. Life is so short, you know, and at the end of our life, when we're on our deathbed, we're going to look back at our relationships and the people we love. Not going to look back at the money you made and, you know, the power you achieved and people you toppled and stuff and your enemies, you know. You look back at your loved ones, you know, and we treat our loved ones worse than we do, like you and me. I wouldn't be rude to you now on the phone, but I was just rude to somebody yesterday that I care a lot about, you know, and I was very rude to her in the car, you know, just
it's mind-boggling, right?
Yes.
Why? That you just struck on the question, which is at the very center of this book. Why the heck do we do that? It's like the closer you become to somebody, the more you feel able to put them down in a lot of ways. And it makes no sense.
Well, I guess
if you do take a step back and reflect, right, you know, you can feel so grateful and so thankful and show that. But you have to do it almost every single day or with every breath, because you can easily backslide.
We got to get you on Dr. Phil. Get you on Dr. Phil. You'll sell 1 million books, man, and he'll be able to figure this out for us. Let's take a little commercial break.
So.
Yeah, you sell a ton of books in here. Okay. And now a word from our sponsors.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you know you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subhash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find the link to Subash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also awakeradio.us.
People are waking up. They're standing up to those pushing pesticides and GMOs as safe alternatives for a starving world. What about your crap? I tell you, I'd rather eat dirt. So I drink Life Change tea. It's an herbal drink, cleansing my body of toxic sludge and nasty chemicals, and of course, ridding the intruders that are hidden in my so-called food. And by the way, Life Change tea is non-GMO and organic. No fillers, no yuck. Just a great defense against you-know-what. May the supplement force awaken you. Don't fall to the dark side. Sorry. I went to the movies last night. Anyway, enough said. How do you get that herbal drink and change your life? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. You will awaken. You will get stronger, and you might even lose a bit of weight. So awaken to Life Change Tea and the many one-of-a-kind supplements at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. May the supplement force be with you.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. You can have your ad played here at OppermanReport.com every Friday night, 5 p.m., and Saturday night, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on Friday nights, too, we do a live portion for 1 hour that I just do a live monologue. The ads are very, very inexpensive, and they're also played in the Opperman Report member section. In the member section, you can find all kinds of exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. It's as cheap as $6 a month, $20 a quarter, or $75 for a year. If you contact me directly at oppermanreport@gmail.com, I'll set you up with a little special deal there where you get a discount if you PayPal me directly, and you even get a copy of my book. I want to thank William Ramsey, who helps us produce the show and book guests. You can find William Ramsey, who's an excellent author, at William Ramsey Investigates on YouTube. We're here with Cutterwood. I'm going to take a little commercial break. Love and Death in the Sunshine State, the story of a crime. His website is cutterwood.com, and he's got a bunch of appearances coming up down in Florida. Check that out. We'll be right. Welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, Private Investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Cutter Wood, the author of Love and Death in the Sunshine State, the story of a crime. You can find it at cutterwood.com, but also Amazon and Barnes & Noble, all those places. And check out the reviews. Great reviews. I think every single review is a number 5, the top review there. So I got to run out and get it myself. Now, Cutter, by the way, is Cutter Wood your real name?
You know, funny thing, this is what you get when you have a father who is a woodworker and has a sense of humor.
Okay, great. Okay. All right. It would be, otherwise it would be a great pen name too, but it's a cool name, man. I think you hooked up.
Well, you know, it's funny. You know, I always thought like, if I ever do something like publish a book, it's going to be great to have a name like Cutter Wood. It's so memorable. And then, of course, if you try to look me up now, half of your results are going to be for woodworking equipment.
Yeah. Even on Amazon. Yeah, the next one down is a book about cutting wood. Hey, now, have you stayed in touch with these guys? Like, because the book just came out April 17th. Have you stayed in touch with the brother and the ex-husband and William Cumber?
You know, not with all of them. With William Cumber, yes. A lot of the other folks in this, it's just been such a long case, and we all thought it was kind of going to go away. So I haven't stayed in too much touch with a lot of the folks.
And what does Cumber think about the book?
Well, you know, he hasn't read it, so I don't know yet. This is kind of, you know, when you're talking about kind of the Truman Capote feeling of things, you never really feel when you write this thing, you never really realize that this is going to be something that's with you for the rest of your life. So, you know, it never crossed my mind that I would still be receiving letters from a man in prison 8 or 10 years after I first got interested in this case. So I think I don't know exactly what he feels. You know, he goes back and forth. Sometimes he writes me very, very unsettling all caps letters. Sometimes they're much more thoughtful and much more okay with the project. You know, I think he's still very interested in a story that kind of humanizes his side of things. But you know, I don't think it's rare that anybody finds their own depiction in words to be something they like. Yeah,
you're never going to like everything 100%, you know, because...
Yeah. it's hard. Everybody is this very multifaceted and complicated human being. And some of that is always going to get lost when you put somebody on the page. So we'll see. I hope, my hope for the book certainly is that there are all these different people who had really strong feelings and a large stake in this case, in this event, and in this woman's life. My hope is just that I've written it in such a way that it was fair to everyone. That could mean that everybody hates it, right? Because being fair to one person might really anger somebody else. But, I hope I've done a good job of depicting who Sabine Musil-Buehler was in a compassionate way. And I hope that all different folks involved feel that they weren't in any way maligned or wronged by the book.
Now, the book is so well received. Didn't he talk about a movie?
I haven't heard anything yet. I heard some rumors initially, but nothing that I've heard of for sure.
And has this story been covered anywhere else, like in the news or in books or movies?
Well, it was a big local case, of course, because it was so mysterious, right? There are tons and tons of crimes down in Florida. I remember when I first talked to a reporter about this, we sat down and over martinis or something, and she just said, "So what's your angle?" And I'm like, "Oh, geez, I don't have an angle. Do I need an angle?" And she was like, "Well, terrible things happen in Florida all the time." Mm-hmm. But the angle I think became on this just that it was such a mystery that nothing for so long, they had nothing. They just had these suspicions and these little tiny clues. And so that really became what it was about.
Well, you spent 7 years of your life on this. What are you working on now?
Great question. Yeah. Great question. I don't know how you ended up in private investigation, but this never was something that I really thought was in the cards for me, going down, writing this kind of book, spending all this time going into prisons and interviewing people or sitting across from bereaved loved ones. And, like we were talking about, it's tough on them and it's tough on you. And so I think I would like to do something a little bit lighter. I've always kind of wanted to write something about restaurants, just because I kind of have a background in that. So that might be where I'm headed next, but who knows? I'm taking it as it comes. I'm not trying to rush into another 10-year project anytime soon. Maybe my biggest plan is just whatever I do next, I don't want it to take this long.
Yeah, well, hopefully, yeah. And right now, I guess you're focusing on the media tour, right?
Yeah. So I'm traveling around right now. It's going kind of bopping from one city to the next, doing readings and meeting people and talking about this project.
Okay, great. Listen, we're out of time. How can people get a hold of you? And what do you want to leave us with? How do you like to sum this up?
Well, so you can find all my work online. I have new essays up recently online, and you can always find more information about the tour and about the book just by going to cutterwood.com. That's probably the best place. And if anybody wants to reach out to me, there's a contact form on there that you can always use to reach out to me. I guess the final takeaway on this is just be nice to the people you love. That's really, it sounds kind of like a strange takeaway for a book, which is about a murder, but that is the takeaway, right? It's easy to kind of go down that path little by little without ever realizing what's going on. So take a deep breath every time you want to say something unkind to someone you care about, and just don't do it.
It's so. And you said there's another website called New Essays?
Oh, I was just saying I have a number of new essays up online at different sites. I think there's one in American Short Fiction right now and one in the Paris Review. So you can find those two, and those both kind of talk about the process of working on this project.
Yeah, gotcha. Thank you so much, man. I really appreciate this.
Thanks for having me.
Good night.
Sure.
Okay, wait. Cutterwood. I got to fix that thing. It's making that little noise when I hang up on people. Cutterwood, Love and Death in the Sunshine State, the story of a true crime. And you can find his website, cutterwood.com. It's spelled just like you would think, Cutter. It would. Last name is Wood, first name Cutter. .com. Got a bunch of appearances coming up in Florida. You can meet him in person. Oh, boy. It's amazing. He was talking about how he got involved in this thing, and 7 years later, he's still involved in it. And it just brought my memory back to so many cases, like that Sarah Palin case that I got involved in, with that young woman who was the massage therapist who was having a relationship with Todd Palin. And, I debated whether I should take the case, and it just, it would just dragged on for years and years and years. And then it escalated into that whole, by coincidence, into that whole Secret Service thing down in Colombia with the Secret Service agents being connected to Sarah Palin, and wound up in a congressional investigation. But just you don't realize, and you get involved in these people in their lives, and you do get letters from prison. People you helped out 10 years ago, and they send you a letter 10 years later and say, hey, Ed, I'm still in prison here. Life is a strange twists and turns. As a matter of fact, in the next part of the show, we're going to be doing a show about Kratom, about that new drug. It's not even a drug. It's an herb. We have the spokesperson for the American Kratom Association.org on the show. And it's this herb you can get in Southeast Asia, and it helps with the withdrawal from heroin. We were talking with Cutter Wood about how the people we love, the people you love the most, you're closest to the most, you'll turn around and you'll strangle them. And when I did that show, the interview about the Kratom, I did it a couple of weeks back because I had this really close friend who was going through a horrible heroin addiction and withdrawals, and while it was going on and right afterwards, I love you so much. Oh, I love you. You saved my life. Oh, you're my best friend. You took care of me. Oh, I love you too. We got the future here. We're going to work on this. We're going to work on that. And here we are now, a couple of weeks later, we don't even talk to each other. It's just fascinating human interaction, and how people, you're cruelest to the ones you love the most. I guess because you think they owe you something. Maybe I should go on Dr. Phil and he could tell me why. Another thing that brought to my mind was that case. I've talked about it many, many times, that death penalty case that I had down in West Virginia, where this guy killed his ex-wife and dumped her body in a mine shaft or a cave or something like that. I forget what it was. He put her body in a refrigerator and he pushed her over this cliff. And my job was to do the cell phone forensics on that. And I had to examine his cell phone, and produce a report on the exhibits, on the items, his text messages and his pictures in the phone. And, I'm looking through the guy's phone. I got a picture of his little 9-year-old son. They're fishing, and the mother's there, the father's there, the little boy's fishing. They're all happy and happier days, and then you go down pictures later on, you see pictures of the bullet wound in this woman's body. He took a picture of the bullet wound from his own phone, and and that's a case that affected me again for years and years and years. I can still, in my mind's eye, I can see the pictures of the little boy. I can see the pictures of the little boy fishing with the dad and the mom, and the little boy just thinking, not only did he lose his mother to murder, lost his father to prison. Right now that kid must be 20 years old now, 21 years old. Wonder what happened to him, Anyway. Love and Death in the Sunshine State, the story of a crime by Cutter Wood. Great reviews. Check it out. I'll have a link in the Opperman Report bookstore. You can check that out as well. Now, listen, if you like these shows, there's a lot more content in our members section at OppermanReport.com. I just uploaded a couple of new shows there. One is with Grant Stern about Felix Sater and Rosneft and Russiagate and all that stuff with Trump. And another one was, what was that other one? It's another good one. And I can't remember it. Oh, Chappaquiddick. Did a show about Chappaquiddick with Mike Rothmiller. That's a great show. I got a couple of things coming up too. I'm going to be doing a show about Poppy, that YouTube sensation, that little girl, up to some bizarre stuff. Got that coming up. It's going to be going up in the member section. But we're at the end of the month. We got those end of the month bills. We got Spreaker and the internet and all that kind of stuff, and the radio airtime we have to pay for. So if you want to keep the show on the air, you can purchase a subscription to our members section, and I'll give you a discount. You can contact me directly at oppermanreport@gmail.com, and I'll give you 13 months for $60. Okay, it's a real big discount, and it'll help keep us on the air because we have all these big expenses at the end of the month. And once again, we're not meeting those expenses, so then it comes out of my pocket, and I got to work extra time to keep the show on air. And I know there's a lot of hundreds of thousands of people love this show, so if you like the show, how you can support it is through the members section there, even more than sponsoring the show and advertising on the show. But although we do have great advertising rates, you can contact me on that as well. at oppermanreport@gmail.com. Great show coming up. We have, what is this guy, Parker? Oh, I got this guy. He knows the Beatles. He did this show about Sid and Nancy. Sid Vicious and Nancy, his wife. He thinks Nancy was murdered. And then we have Ramona Africa from the group Move that was bombed and attacked and burned alive down there in Philadelphia back in the 80s. She's the lone survivor. Even the little boy that escaped with her from this bombing and shooting attack on their compound, even the little boy grew up and died. He died in a drowning on a cruise ship. A little boy named Birdie. So we have Ramona Africa come on. She's been on the show several times before. And a couple of the members of the Move family from there in Philadelphia, they're coming up for parole. Some of the women. And it's a horrific story. They won a civil lawsuit, against this unwarranted attack on their home and their families there. And the judge says, the police have to give you $1 a year for 100,000 years. Some nonsense like that. Hey, but anyway, a couple of the women are up for parole, and these are women who, admittedly, the judge admits it, the police admit it, the prosecutor admits it, never fired a gun. And we're down in a basement that was being filled up with water. They were being attacked by water cannons, and they were holding their little babies over their heads, standing up on tables, holding their babies over their heads so their babies wouldn't drown while they were being shot at, and they couldn't escape from this attack on their home. They were being shot at. And these women have been in prison for some 20, 25, 30 years. But they're up for parole. So maybe we can write some letters to the parole board and make some phone calls down there and try and get some action. So thank you so much. OppermanReport.com is our members section. You can sign up there. Or if you want to get a discount, OppermanReport@gmail.com. OppermanReport@gmail.com. I'll give you 13 months for $60. We'll be right back after these messages. We're going to be talking about Kratom, this wonder herb that will help you with heroin withdrawals. Okay, and I witnessed that firsthand myself. It's a tragic thing to watch. The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subhash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find a link to Subhash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also awakeradio.us.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99.
Hi, folks. Ronnie here from Life Change Tea. There's a lot of hubbub about the ramifications of GMOs. First of all, what are GMOs? Genetically modified organisms. Yee! Man-made organisms entering our body, changing and damaging us from the inside out. What's our defense? First of all, not eating them. Second, cleansing from them when we do eat them. Thank God for Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. Life Change Tea cleanses from toxins, heavy metals, and helps flush GMOs out of your body. Our unique blend of herbs help cleanse you from the inside out, helping you feel refreshed and clean of yee. We also carry unique one-of-a-kind supplements. So order online at getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Rid yourself of the yee that contaminates your food and water. Go to getthetea.com. That's getthetea.com. Get the Tea, your best defense.
You can have your ad played here at OppermanReport.com every Friday night, 5 p.m., and Saturday night, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on Friday nights, too, we do a live portion for 1 hour that I just do a live monologue. The ads are very, very inexpensive, and they're also played in the Opperman Report member section. In the member section, you can find all kinds of exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. It's as cheap as $6 a month, $20 a quarter, or $75 for a year. If you contact me directly at oppermanreport@gmail.com, I'll set you up with a little special deal there where you get a discount if you PayPal me directly, and you can get a copy of my book. I want to thank William Ramsey, who helps us produce the show and book guests. You can find William Ramsey, who's an excellent author, at William Ramsey Investigates on YouTube.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
It's the Opperman Report. Join digital forensic investigator and PI Ed Opperman for an in-depth discussion of conspiracy theories, strategy of New World Order resistance, high-profile court cases in the news, and interviews with expert guests and authors on these topics and more. It's the Opperman Report. And now, here is investigator Ed Opperman.
Okay. Welcome to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. You can find me at emailrevealer.com. You can get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. And this show is brought to you by getthetea.com, Life Change Tea at getthetea.com. I've been drinking this now. I'm down another 5 pounds, by the way, on the Life Change Tea. I've only been using it less than 30 days still. And losing weight, feeling good, better digestion. My complexion is better and a lot more energy too. No coffee in 30 days. Getthetea.com, Life Change Tea. Okay, we got today with us Dave Herman from the American Kratom Association. And I'm just starting to learn about this stuff. So, and it's a pretty new topic, I think, as well. A lot of shows on TV about it, but we're going to get it straight from the horse's mouth. David Kratom, the chairman of the American Kratom Association. Mr. Herman, are you there?
I'm here.
Tell us about yourself. Who is Dave Herman?
Dave Herman. Dave Herman's a father. He's a husband. He's a passionate believer in a lot of what makes America great in my eyes. He's the chairman of the board of the American Kratom Association. Spent probably 40 years, 35 years in the private sector. I know what it is to sign the front of a paycheck. And the last 15 years have been in the nonprofit arena, with my latest venture being here with the American Kratom Association, something that I started researching because I have a relative that has had two fusions in the back, one in the neck, and terribly worried about the long-term implications of pain clinics. So looking for alternatives, this is one of the things that I researched. And I ended up being invited to sit on the board of directors of the AKA. And 2 weeks after having joined the board, the chairman of the board resigned. And all of a sudden, people looked at me because of my background and said, would you do this? And without any brain in my head whatsoever, I said, yes. I don't quite understand how that happened. So that's pretty much Dave Herman.
Now, the American Kratom Association, is this like a lobbyist group, an advocate? How would you describe it?
It is a 501c4, which allows lobbying. It's an advocacy group with the intent of helping to maintain the legality of natural botanical kratom. So we do lobby. We represent the consumer. We're very active in the field. And we're trying to protect the health and well-being, the right to choose for Americans.
Okay, then explain to us exactly what is kratom. It's some kind of an herb, right?
It's actually the leaf from a tree in Southeast Asia, from the coffee family. It's been used for hundreds of years in that part of the world safely. It is provided a level of energy to the workers in the fields in that part of the world, and started coming to the States probably during the Vietnam era as returning soldiers had become familiar with Kratom overseas. They brought it back with them. And some of the refugees from Southeast Asia emigrating to America also brought it with them as part of their culture. Here, it's probably used in the last 30 years with a growing emphasis in the last decade or two. It has been reported by the people that contact us. It's anecdotal, but what they tell us is that it's done a good job as an analgesic, helping with pain. It has helped a number of people, according to them, withdraw from opioid addiction, because the withdrawal pain and symptoms from that addiction are horrific. Kratom hits the same opioid receptors in the brain that these deadly drugs are hitting. And as a result of that, a lot of the nausea, the running nose, the sweat, the headaches, we're told by our consumers goes away. So they're very much in favor of it. We don't make any medical claims for Kratom. We make a simple claim. The American citizen has the right to choose whatever they want for their health and well-being, as long as it doesn't harm them. And we believe Kratom fits right into that pocket.
Okay, now you say it's a leaf in Southeast Asia, and they've been using this for a long time down there. Now, how do they consume the Kratom down there in Southeast Asia?
Well, they pull it off the tree and chew it. They make a tea out of it. Some people grind it into a powder. I hear reports of people saying that they smoke it. That's not true. People don't smoke Kratom. It's just consumed. It's consumed like coffee might be. I think the overarching issue is that in its natural form, it embodies some well-being, and people like that. And so, like I said, they'll literally over there pull it off a tree and chew on it.
Okay, and you said that it gives you energy, right? That's how they use it down there in Southeast Asia?
Well, for Thailand, Malaysia, Indonesia, that part of the world, the reports that we've received back are that it has some analgesic properties, so it helps with pain. And in light doses, it's energy creator. And in heavier doses, it's more lethargy. But there's no dosage that you can take Kratom that leads to the opioid highs that are so deadly a part of what's going on in this epidemic. The other critical path item, and this is humongous, is that people don't die from an opioid. They die from what happens. So that could be a heart attack, it could be a lot of things. But in most cases, it's respiratory depression or suppression. You simply quit breathing, and as a result of that, you're no longer living. Kratom has zero respiratory depression, and there's plenty of scientific literature on that. So from a standpoint of what does it do, well, if it alleviates any of the pains and it doesn't give you the risk that's associated with respiratory depression, then we feel this is a possible alternative.
Now, the reason why I became curious about Kratom, okay, in the past couple of weeks, just last week, I had a friend, and I had to take her through detox from heroin. And we couldn't get her into the detox the first 2 days. We went down there, waited the whole day long. They wouldn't accept her. So I had to take her here and try and keep her in one piece overnight, for 2 days. And it was a horrible situation. I had to massage her back, muscle spasms and stuff like that. I was giving her NyQuil at night and the Tylenol and ibuprofen during the day. And luckily we had some kind of muscle relaxers around the house too, that my daughter hurt her foot, and we gave her some of that. Now, in a situation, and that's when we finally got her in there. That's when I started looking around. Hey, how do you really do this? And I saw a lot of stuff about Kratom. Now, in a situation like that, where you have someone detoxing from heroin and they're really, really in bad shape, how would you use the Kratom to treat that? Not to treat it, but to alleviate those symptoms.
Well, again, I want to make sure that you understand. I'm making no medical claims. That's something that falls afoul of the law because it's a supplement, not a drug.
Right.
But having hundreds of thousands of people report to us, having 3 to 5 million people in this country currently use it, we hear how they use it. And for detox, it takes the place of the hard drug and satisfies some of the needs in the opioid receptors without having the respiratory depression, without having the sweats, without having the cramps, without having any of the things. So it's a gateway away from these things, and we believe that scientific study on that subject could be humongous. The problem we have at the moment is that the FDA has a mindset to ban this product, and they've had that mindset for a while now. Short history lesson. August 31st of 2016, the DEA came out with a notice of intent to ban Kratom and to make it a Schedule I drug under the CSA. God, I just went blank. That's a terrible thing.
Oh, wait. What year was that? 2018?
2016.
2016. Okay, sorry.
Now, this went out in August of 2016, thereabouts, September 1st. During that period, there was a comment period, and it was open to discussion. And so I've got some of the numbers handy, but let me see how many people reported. Over 140,000 people came out against the ban on Kratom, sending that. It was 142,000 signers of the petition. 23,000 emails were sent to DEA, and 99.1% were favorable. We had almost 1,200 doctors, vets, scientists, and law officers told the DEA they don't want to ban it. We had bipartisan support from 61 members of the U.S. House and Senate asking DEA not to proceed with a ban on Kratom. We had 0 emergency healthcare professionals and EMTs responding to a ban. We showed 0 death. So there was a huge outcry, and the net effect of that outcry was that on October of 2016, they rescinded the notice of intent to ban Kratom. That was also coupled with a request by DEA to the FDA for a rapid scientific analysis of Kratom. We can now define rapid for you. It's about 15 months because what is normally done is something called an 8-factor analysis. And it's just what it sounds. It's 8 factors. And 3 of the biggest ones are abuse potential, potential for addiction, and potential harm to the public health. We commissioned one of the leading scientists in the field of addiction to perform this exact same statutory 8-factor analysis that the FDA had not performed. And that was Dr. Jack Henningfield. He was an adjunct professor at Johns Hopkins and a multi-decade worker with the National Institute of Drug Abuse, FDA, and DEA, a recognized expert in his field by these same people. His conclusion was that there was a low potential for abuse, there was a low potential for addiction, and there was no public health threat. But he did say that banning of Kratom would create several things. We know that Kratom doesn't kill people, but we also know that if you ban Kratom, people are going to die. You're going to drive them back to opioids. You're going to not promote science and research. It's going to become a black market item. The people that handle black markets tend to be rather rougher than the average individual citizen. And all of these things coupled together will result in a very bad situation. We believe there's a potential to use Kratom in the opioid addiction fight, and that it's a huge potential, and would like that further reviewed deeply. And we think there's a regulatory role for FDA in the monitoring of what goes on with this product. If it's the natural leaf or powder right from the tree, we think it should be left alone. It falls under the Supplements Act. It should be protected by the Deshay Act of 1994. Which is where Congress stepped in and told the government agencies that, no, you don't get to regulate the supplement industry. That's something different. And ever since then, by the way, the agencies have been a little bit peeved by that and would like to control it. And we think that's part and parcel of what's happening now. But we had the 8-factor analysis out and available and in the marketplace since about December of 2016. In December of 2017, the 8-factor analysis was published in Psychopharmacology. It's a 30-year magazine that is peer-reviewed publication. So if you're in there, you're tested the way you're supposed to be tested. And the 8 factors from Jack Henningfield are now part of that. And we think that gives a clarity to the potential for harm from this drug. We think it's a good thing, but more important than anything, Americans have the right to decide what to do for their own health and well-being. And the number of people that tell you this has changed their lives and what would I do without this, or you're throwing me back into addiction, or my pain clinic will not give me any more opioids because some guy who's never met me has decided my pain isn't real enough to require this many pills. All of that added together comes back to the front end of this, where we have government onslaught that includes a lot of misinformation and misunderstandings and flat-out lies, trying to ban a product that they have no reason to ban and they shouldn't even want to ban. And that's where we are in the state of the back and forth with the government.
Then what do you think their motivation is to ban it? Is it the opioid lobby that's lobbying against this?
Ed, this is the single hardest question to ever answer. I don't know what someone's motivation is. For me to presume to tell you is just craziness. What we can tell you is that there's a lot of movement trying to make this a drug, not a supplement. You'll read the literature, and it'll be, they need to do this and that as a drug. Well, if you do a new drug application with the United States government, with the FDA, there are user fees. And people do not generally know that the down payment, the first user fee with a new drug application that requires clinical research, is about $2.4 million. And there's an ongoing annual fee that's probably $300,000. Well, a significant portion of FDA's budget comes from new drug user fees. And so they're throwing this into that same bailiwick, and we don't think it belongs there at all. It's not a drug. It's a supplement. And no matter how many times they say it's a drug, it doesn't make it so. Why are they doing it? Well, money seems to be a good reason, and we tend to follow that as why people do things. But for whatever reason, if it's just trying to declare a victory in the opioid epidemic by banning this deadly substance, their motivations are wrong and their facts are wrong, and we'll debate them on the science anytime they want. The science is on our side. In the last, I would say, year or so, we've mentioned to you the 8-factor analysis. FDA has come out with a claim of 44 kratom-related deaths in a 6-year period. That's not true. But if it was true, I'd put kratom up for a safety award, not for banning it. 6 years, 44 deaths. The medicine-assisted treatment centers will give you methadone as part of your treatment. And according to the CDC, methadone kills over 5,400 people a year.
Wow.
Looking at the kratom-related deaths, and this comes from something called the FDA Adverse Event Reporting System, FAERS for short. Of those deaths, it is stunning how many of them have other drugs in the deceased system. These are not caused by kratom. They're related to kratom. That's a big difference. My most favorite is always the guy that got shot in the chest with a gunshot wound and died. And that is listed as a kratom-related death because there was kratom in his bloodstream. And so my usual answer is, well, I think we should ban bullets that have been rubbed in kratom. The ground zero for the death call is 2010, I think it is, in Sweden. And there was a street drug, an illegal street drug called Krypton. Krypton was a base of kratom laced with O-desmethyl tramadol. And O-desmethyl tramadol by itself will kill you. Well, they had 9 deaths. Those are listed as kratom-related deaths, but that's not what killed them. We had 2 people that went out partying hardy, and that included alcohol and heroin, overdosing, and one of them died, and that became a kratom-related death. We had a guy in Germany that fell out of a window, broke his arm, refused medical treatment, and died. Kratom-related death. And as you start adding these numbers up that I'm sharing with you, it's pretty clear that those 44 deaths aren't 44 deaths. The other one that's kind of interesting is that a large quantity of the reported deaths in the bloodstream, people had loperamide. Most people would know that more under the name Imodium, I guess. It's a generic. But it's an opioid, and it's anti-diarrhea because opioids will constipate you. And so people have found out, because the addict community is incredibly resourceful, that high levels of loperamide can get you high. Well, it can also kill you. And so those are listed in the kratom-related deaths. And closing that loop, the studies that we have seen and the doctors that we have spoken to will state that when you take too much kratom, you don't get high. It's a horrible high. What happens is you get nauseous and throw up. It's almost self-regulating. So if we have a product that if you take too much of it, makes you nauseous and you throw up, and it doesn't suppress your respiratory system and it doesn't kill you, why is the government trying to ban it?
But you're saying those 44 deaths, even with the gunshot wound and falling out the window and all that kind of stuff, that's over 6 years.
Yes.
Okay. All right. This is a good time to take a little break here. We're with Dave Herman from the American Kratom Association. That's americankratom.org. One last question before we take a break. How is the AKA funded? How do you fund this organization?
Well, we take donations, similar to most nonprofits. We have individual funders, and I'd say, I don't know off the top of my head, 75, 80% of our funding comes from individual donations. But, we're out there and we put out regular letters and missives explaining the situation and explaining how we have to fight it and why we need money, and people send us the money. We are now in 9 states lobbying. It's costing us quite a lot of money because part of the disinformation campaign is to roll up kratom on a local level, and you can get it to the federal level much easier if the states have already been rolled up. So our money comes in from donations. We don't have members in the true sense of the word members, and we don't have any other businesses. This is what we do.
Okay. All right, we'll be right back with more of Dave Herman, the American Kratom Association. And now a word from our sponsors.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
The Opperman Report is brought to you by SubhashTechnosis.com. Subhash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subhash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find the link to Subhash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also awakeradio.us.
People are waking up. They're standing up to those pushing pesticides and GMOs as safe alternatives for a starving world. What a bunch of crap! I tell you, I'd rather eat dirt. So I drink Life Change Tea. It's an herbal drink, cleansing my body of toxic sludge and nasty chemicals, and of course, ridding the intruders that are hidden in my so-called food. And by the way, Life Change Tea is non-GMO and organic. No fillers, no yuck. Just a great defense against you-know-what. May the supplement force awaken you. Don't fall to the dark side. Oh, Sorry, I went to the movies last night. Anyway, enough said. How do you get that herbal drink and change your life? GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. You will awaken. You will get stronger, and you might even lose a bit of weight. So awaken to Life Change Tea and the many one-of-a-kind supplements at GetTheT.com. That's GetTheT.com. May the supplement force be with you.
Want to give a shout out. Shane McKay is my resident audio engineer. Shane McKay. It's spelled S-E-I-N. Shane McKay. And see, there's a lot of difficulties when you're doing this radio show, when you got a guest on, they're on Skype, they're on a phone over there, and you can't get the audio levels mixed right, and and there's feedback and there's all kinds of stuff. And so what I do now is, if you notice the improved quality of my of the airtime of the broadcast, is because every single broadcast I do, I record the MP3, I send it off to Ireland to Shane McKay, and he does his magic on it, audio enhancement and editing and mastering, audio enhancement and restoration. He's a sound technician, handles technical support and production assistance. He handles everything for me. He sends it over to KYAH for me. He does it all. He puts in the commercials. Sometimes we got a set of commercials we want to send to this station, a set of commercials we want to send to the other station. He pulls the old ones out, he puts the new ones in, and he does all this as a volunteer to help the show. So you have any kind of work in this area that you want to send to Shane McKay, SEINMACKAY @gmail.com. You can find him on Upwork.com under Shane M, SEINM, and you can hire him very reasonable prices. Does excellent work. You could tell. Go back and listen to the old shows from Revolution Radio and listen to the shows now. Listen to the difference in the audio quality, and tell me that Shane McKay is not worth his weight in Irish whiskey over there. Shane McKay. Thank you so much, Shane.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. You can have your ad played here at OppermanReport.com every Friday night, 5 p.m., and Saturday night, 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And on Friday nights, too, we do a live portion for 1 hour that I just do a live monologue. The ads are very, very inexpensive, and they're also played in the Opperman Report member section. In the member section, you can find all kinds of exclusive content that you won't find anywhere else. It's as cheap as $6 a month, $20 a quarter, or $75 for a year. If you contact me directly at oppermanreport@gmail.com, I'll set you up with a little special deal there where you get a discount if you PayPal me directly, and you even get a copy of my book. I want to thank William Ramsey, who helps us produce the show and book guests. You can find William Ramsey, who's an excellent author, at William Ramsey Investigates on YouTube. Okay, welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. We're here today with Dave Herman, from the American Kratom Association, the AmericanKratom.org. Dave, you mentioned that they're trying to make this illegal in some states, and some states have made this illegal, right? Can you give us an idea how many states and where they are?
Yes. Yeah, there's 6 states, I think, and the District of Columbia where kratom is illegal. We've won recently in a number of states where the thought process was to make it illegal because of disinformation. Alabama, Wisconsin, Vermont, Rhode Island, Indiana, Arkansas. I might have missed one, but those states have banned kratom. And we believe that we're going to visit with all of them, and we have visited with some of them already, because it's based on misinformation. What kratom is not, it's not a drug. It's not an opiate. It's not a synthetic substance. It's a natural occurring, safe herbal supplement that's from our side more akin to tea and coffee than any other substance. One of the things that happens here regularly is there's a picture painted of the average kratom user that doesn't look anything like the average kratom user. We have a study by Dr. Oliver Grunman on who uses kratom. And the average Kratom user is between 31 and 50 years old, makes over $35,000 a year, and discusses Kratom use with his primary care physician. This is more akin to tea or coffee than anything else that's out there. We think it's very safe to use it based on that.
And now the 6 states, though, that have made it illegal, what would be the penalties for possessing Kratom? And is there a limit, like, an ounce, Do you know what the penalties are?
They're not doing this is a dealer kind of situation that you see with a lot of the illegal or illicit drugs. I don't know the specifics in every state. The mere fact that it's banned is a red light going off in our heads. We must go back and visit these issues. And in fairness, people are doing what they think is right based on a belief that the DEA and the FDA would only tell them the truth because government agencies are charged with telling us the truth. The problem with that is they don't. When the ban was rescinded in October of 2016, there should have been information going out to all the law enforcement officers that had previously been told how awful this product was and tell them, no, it's no longer banned. But we still see municipalities that think it's a Schedule I drug. It's not. We have them tell us that Kratom kills. It doesn't. They're not going back and straightening out the very mess they've made. And the result of that is that it has gotten banned in a few places. But every time we get a chance to visit with these folks and give them the science behind it, give them the 8-factor analysis, show them the Grundman study. We have a letter that was sent to the Opioid Commission signed by 9 leading scientists saying you shouldn't ban it. The science is on our side. The emotion apparently is not, and that's a lot of what we're doing with. So, yeah, there's 6 states, District of Columbia. I don't believe District of Columbia even enforces it, but it's on their books.
Now, laws don't get passed just, in a vacuum. There's people who lobby to get these laws passed, and it's very difficult to get a law passed. Now, so have you noticed a pattern of who it is that's lobbying to get these laws passed to illegalize the Kratom?
Well, I mean, we're seeing the DEA and the FDA on side with doing this. They believe this should be banned. They list it as a drug and chemical of concern. Don't know why, but they do. And they've created an import ban, which is used constantly as a source of proof that there's something wrong with this product. The medically assisted, the MAT, medically assisted treatment centers, are very much against Kratom. But again, methadone kills over 5,400 people a year, and that comes from CDC. That doesn't come from me. They want to put Suboxone up, or Buprin. I can never pronounce that word. That drug up for a safety award, and the basis for the safety award, Ed, is 10 years, totaling 400 deaths. What a great thing that product is! And they're accusing Kratom of having killed 44 people in 6 years. I mean, ibuprofen kills more people than that.
Both those drugs are very addictive, too. Both the Suboxone, the Subutex, and the methadone are both very addictive. Once you get started with that, pretty much.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so the answer to anyone who suggests that maybe this is an alternative is always, well, it hasn't been appropriately tested yet. And we have medically assisted treatment available. Medicine-assisted treatment, and those are the 2 main ones. That's crazy. I don't know any other way to say it. That's just crazy. Are you going to take methadone if you're addicted to something just like methadone? I mean, that's not helping anybody. We've written to the Opioid Commission, to Kellyanne Conway, to Robert Patterson at DEA. We've met with the NIDA. We have plenty of people there visiting folks in Congress. Senator Hatch has come out strongly in favor of Kratom. Mark Pocan from Wisconsin has done the same. We recently had a letter to the DEA, a dear colleague letter, coming out of the House of Representatives, and I think we had 25 or 26 different members of the House that also said, don't schedule this. And the reply to all of this is, let's schedule it. Falls on deaf ears quite a bit is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah. It's funny when you mentioned Kellyanne Conway. I says, why would he be writing to Kellyanne Conway? But you're right. She's she's in charge of the opioid. She's up there with that opioid commissioner.
Hey, I don't appoint him. I just write him.
Yeah, and we don't want to offend Kellyanne Conway. I'm sure she's doing a wonderful job. We want to get her on your side. No,
we would like very much to hear from her and give us an hour of your time on this subject and let us show you what's really happening out there. I think it's mind-boggling. You don't get 3 to 5 million people pushing as hard as they're pushing so that a group like ours can be forward and try to save something that has no value. Doesn't work that way. This is absolutely a hue and cry from the general populace saying, don't do this. Well, we're trying to say, don't do this.
Now, are there any other groups out there organized like the American Kratom Association that's out there lobbying and advocating for Kratom, like competing organizations?
There are, I hate the word competing organizations. We all have one cause, and the cause is the legality for Kratom. There are probably 4 groups total out there that I'm aware of. Might be 1 or 2 more. I don't know. But from a perspective of size and history, I think we're by far the largest.
Okay. Now, what about any side effects to Kratom? If you're just using, reasonable dosages, are there any side effects to the usage of it?
Well, you said reasonable dosages. If you take too much, you're going to vomit. Okay. If you withdraw from it, you might get a headache. I mean, you get a headache from coffee. You might get it from Kratom as well. But we have not registered any negative effects like the ones you're talking about. If they were there, believe me, the FDA and DEA would be touting it to the heavens.
And you said if you take too much, what would be too much?
I don't know. I'll get you as much as you want. When you throw up, that'll be too much.
Okay, I got you. All right.
But on the road to too much, again, Dr. Henningfield's conclusion, Kratom is a terrible high. Why would an addict of any kind try to use this to get high? The quantity is way more and the high is way low. And, oh, by the way, you get sick and throw up. That's not a good profile.
What about dependency? Do people develop a dependency on it if they start using it?
Oh, yeah, they're going to become horribly addicted. The worst I've read is it took somebody a day or 2 to get over a headache. The best I've read is I didn't take it, didn't notice I didn't take it. I personally take it. I took some just before I talked to you because my back hurts. I don't think I sound like I'm particularly high, although maybe somebody would argue that point. There are no real negative effects to it. And I know that's hard to comprehend and throw into the transom. But we think this is helpful. We don't think it's harmful. And when someone starts saying this is addictive, well, I point again to the 8-factor analysis that says it has a low potential for addiction. Some addiction, sure, but low potential. And that can happen with coffee, beer, a number of things. No, we don't really see the negative aspects of this. What we do see is if you ban it and it goes black market, now you can get adulterated product. And if you read closely a lot of the information that comes out, you'll see that Kratom is dangerous because if you mix it with other drugs. Wait a minute. What? If I take white bread and mix it with other drugs, it's dangerous. That's just not a good answer. And as far as causality and relationships, I thought the other day that I saw a traffic accident not far from where I live, and it dawned on me that both people driving those cars had probably had a glass of water that day. So did water cause it?
I talk about withdrawals too. You mentioned coffee. I forgot the other one you mentioned, but just stop eating sugar for a few days. That's the worst addiction. If you stop eating sugar for a few days, you get the worst headache. It goes on for days and days. I do these things called a Daniel fast, where I cut out all sugar and alcohol and coffee for 21 days, and I'm doing it right now for 28 days. You stop sugar, it's the worst because there's a baseline in sugar in everything. It's in ketchup, it's in everything. You stop eating sugar for 3-4 days, you're gonna have a solid headache when you cut out all sugar. So,
my belief is that if we discovered sugar today, we would ban it as a controlled substance.
You know what? That would probably be a great thing. I see people drinking these big bottles of Pepsi and Coke.
We have a lot of thought process amongst our peers that revolves around the fact that we believe in the 10th Amendment. and that anything that isn't directly given to the federal government by the Constitution should be given to the states to handle. And this, to me, is a prime example of that.
No, I hear you with that. Now you mentioned that you just took some right before the show. Now, how much did you consume, and how did you consume it? Like in a pill form, in a tea? What did you do?
No, I had a half a teaspoon.
Okay.
That I mixed with peanut butter because it's a god awful tasting product. No one will take this because it tastes good. Trust me, it just doesn't. And so I mixed it with some peanut butter, and I took it with a spoon, and I ate it.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now, when I went looking for this, now how would someone go about purchasing this? Would you go? Is there a safe way to purchase it, or a way you'd be worried about? Because I assume you go online right away, right? You go online. Do they sell it on Amazon?
No, it's not on Amazon.
Yeah, see?
We think it should.
Yeah.
It is available online. It is available in smoke shops.
Yeah.
It's available in head shops. This was the origin of the distribution network for Kratom here in this country. We want to see this grow to where when you go to your local drugstore, there it is. There's no reason for it not to be there. But again, when you take business owners and you show them that something is a drug of concern based on DEA's evaluation, they're not going to want to stock it in your store. So this is a fight on multiple levels, but yeah, it's readily available and it can be found online. And I'm not going to endorse any vendor. That's not our function.
Right.
But, there's plenty of places where you can get reviews too, I believe, and find out. But yeah, would love to see this in drugstores, grocery stores, all over the map. It's an inexpensive alternative to some of the other things that are out there, and wearing that drum out, it doesn't hurt you.
Right, and so places like Whole Foods and Sprouts, it's not going to be there for sure.
For sure.
Okay, but at the smoke shops, I saw online because I looked up locally Vegas. Smoke shops seem to have it. Now, would there be any brands or I don't know, we don't want to get into that, but I guess, because I saw there's different varieties of it too, and different kind of forms, forms of it,
Different strains, yes, different strains, different colors, slightly different effect. It's gone to where I've had folks that are knowledgeable explain to me that there's a different effect from each one of the colored veins. I've had another person who's extremely knowledgeable tell me they're all the same.
Okay.
You be your own guide on that one. But there's multiple ways, and we really want to see strength in packaging, strength in production. We want safety for the consumer. These are things that will make Kratom evolve into the mainstream of society the right way. Hey, tell us what's in this package. Don't have anything in this package that shouldn't be, that kind of thing. That's, again, black market versus the real market. But yeah, labeling is a big deal, and buyer beware at this particular juncture. But there are an awful lot of reputable dealers out there that if you look at their product, will tell you the batch. They'll give you information you need. They'll reassure you that their product is safe. The only thing I worry about is the adulterant.
Right.
We think, again, that the leaf and the powder should be left alone. Buy all you want. The minute you turn that into a tincture or a mixture or an extract, then there's a production role that would fit very well into what the FDA is charged with doing. And we'd cooperate highly with them if they would just talk to us about doing it that way. If they would take the conversation away from banning and move it into proper regulatory constraints, we'd be all for it. We think you can restrict it by age. No one under the age of 18 could buy it. Although we've never had a case where we've seen children harmed with this, we'd still go for childproof packaging. There are a number of things that would give credibility and safety to the consumer, and ultimately we want the consumer to be safe. So we'd rather work hand in hand than opposite.
So right now, if you're under 18, can you purchase it?
Depends on the state. Okay. Some you can, some you can't.
Gotcha. And what does it come in pill form, in capsules?
Yes, you can buy capsules. They're gelatin capsules as a general rule. You can get anything from the powder to the leaf to capsules to tinctures. We see some marketing that bothers us. We see some names that we would never endorse. but it's available in multi-forms. A lot of people make tea, and they'll brew the tea for one day for the whole week, and then they have a glass of tea whenever they want it, and that seems to work well with them.
But how does that taste?
With the tea, if you add some lemon and do a couple things with it, not too bad. But this is never going to win a Julia Childs Award for taste.
I got you. Okay, and people should, since it's so up in the air right now, people should go online, do your research, check the reviews before you go shop.
I think so. I mean, I think it's prudent for any consumer to check what he's buying. That just makes good sense. We can tell you that Kratom itself, Metrorrhina speciosa, is a safe product. And now we want to be sure, and we're going to have a summit meeting with vendors on this very subject here at the end of this month. And one of the purposes and one of the hopes that we come out of there is a standardization of packaging and labeling so that the consumer can comfortably see what's going on. We want to help protect against counterfeiting. We want this to be a mainstream product.
Let's take another little break right now, okay? We're with Dave Herman. I was going to call you Dave Kratom. Dave Herman. Dave Herman from the American Kratom Association. And the website is americankratom.org. And that's Kratom. This topic's come up over the year. I've been calling it Kratom. But it's Kratom, Kratom, American. And now a word from our sponsors.
We all have questions. Did he do it or did he not? We all have opinions, but do we really know the truth? New evidence will now be presented and the ultimate answers will be revealed in the explosive documentary, Serpents Rising. Inspired by the bestseller Double Cross for Blood, an independent investigation of the trial of the century, the lies, the myths, and the concealed evidence. Don't miss Serpents Rising.
This excellent documentary film is available at Serpents Rising at Vimeo Videos on demand. Watch it for $1.99. Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You also do all the kind of different services for you. Online dating service investigations called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites, and we return a list of all the dating sites that email is registered to. We can expand on that investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites, and all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone digital forensics, where we can recover deleted content from an email or a hard drive and produce a report for you that you can use in court. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com.
WPR Rebuttal, covering the sides of the story missed by Wisconsin Public Radio, bringing you narratives the UW System Board of Regents won't allow, shedding light on perspectives the owners of WPR don't want you to hear. Every Thursday at 12:30 Central Time, WPR Rebuttal is your destination for grassroots journalism in Sauk County and beyond. Our host, Senator JPO, provides insightful analysis into stories that are only superficially covered by mainstream press. A recent inventory of topics includes college graduate underemployment, yellow journalism in the media, and favoritism in the public sector hiring process. Get your WPR Rebuttal fix Thursdays at 12:30 Central Time.
Subhash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you know you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subhash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find a link to Subhash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also awakeradio.us.
People are waking up. They're standing up to those pushing pesticides and GMOs as safe alternatives for a starving world. What a bunch of crap! I tell you, I'd rather eat dirt. So I drink Life Change Tea. It's an herbal drink, cleansing my body of toxic sludge and nasty chemicals, and of course, ridding the intruders that are hidden in my so-called food. And by the way, Life Change Tea is non-GMO and organic. No fillers, no yuck. Just a great defense against you-know-what. May the supplement force awaken you. Don't fall to the dark side. Sorry. I went to the movies last night. Anyway, enough said. How do you get that herbal drink and change your life? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. You will awaken. You will get stronger, and you might even lose a bit of weight. So awaken to Life Change Tea and the many one-of-a-kind supplements at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. May the supplement force be with you.
Welcome back to the Opperman Report. I'm your host, private investigator Ed Opperman. We're here talking to Dave Herman, who's the chairman of the American Kratom Association. That's americankratom.org. Dave, is there anything I haven't asked you that you want the audience to be aware of about Kratom?
Yeah, but I'd like to circle back for a minute, Ed, if that's okay. I'm haunted by your beginning of this show.
Okay.
You spoke of your friend with the heroin problem and how trapped you were. And one of the things that is bothersome to me personally and to us as a group is that nothing works for everybody. That's just usually true, not always, but usually. But if Kratom could have helped her, or if it had the potential to help her, or if Kratom would help one person, as long as it isn't harmful, shouldn't they be allowed to try it?
I totally agree with you. And, when you're in that situation, there is very little help out there because unless you have the insurance and a lot of patience, too, because they treat you like crap at these detox. And it was a nice place, too. But this little girl was so small in a wheelchair, I had to take it to the ER. They made us leave the detox, go to the ER. So if I would have known about this in advance, I'm definitely going to keep this in mind. But once again, wrapping up, because I'd like to. Is there anything I've forgotten to ask you?
I don't think so. We could go on, as I told you earlier, for quite a length of time on this subject. What I would like to say is one of our goals here has to be that we can't be preaching to the choir. A constant conversation with those of us within the community only strengthens our belief that we already had. It's terribly important that folks like you help us reach out and introduce new people to this and assure them as to safety. If it's safe and it doesn't hurt you, give it a shot. What do you got to lose? That's the final message, I think.
Okay. And how can people reach you if they want to get in contact with you?
Dave.Herman at americankratom.org.
Dave, thank you so much. If anything new comes up, especially if they're trying to make it illegal here in Nevada, let me know. Okay, we can put you right back on the air.
Okay.
Or Utah. Okay.
Well, thank you.
Thank you very much, Dave.
Thank you.
They had Dave Herman. I got to fix that. Something when I hang up now on people, it makes a little noise. I got to fix it. Dave Herman from the American Kratom Association. And that's americankratom.org. And like I said, I got involved in this because, really, really dear friend of mine, got addicted to heroin. She's a very small girl, like 90 pounds when she was a preemie when she was born, Very small to begin with, very skinny to begin with. And this jerk gets around this stuff, is giving all this free heroin for months and months. And then he winds up in prison, so now she has no heroin. And there's no way to get it. And went through these horrible withdrawals. And even before I picked her up and got her down to the detox stuff, it was like day after day of, okay, pick me up, come do it. And then she'd disappear and, back and forth with that. It took up a whole, several weeks of my time. But finally, when I got my hands on her, I got her in the car. And we got over there, all our paperwork, all our ducks in a row. We just had to wait and wait and wait all day long. When she's sick and puking and nose running, like he says, it's the most horrible sight you could see. Little girl. And then they made us leave and go to the ER. I had to take her in a wheelchair, and she's like a little rag doll, like a wet rag doll in this wheelchair, covered in blankets. wheeling her back and forth. The medical care in this country is just, there's such nice, beautiful buildings and equipment and rules and signs everywhere and beautiful stuff. But, nothing happens. You just wait and wait. And then nothing. And then we had to go home that night. And like I said, up all night. If we would have had something like this, we definitely would have tried it. We were trying anything. And I knew from my background, because I actually grew up down Alphabet City back in New York, that you take an antihistamine at night and give them the painkillers, the ibuprofen and the Tylenol during the day and the Imodium, so you don't get nauseous. Not Imodium, that the anti-nausea stuff, you take that too, and then a little NyQuil at night. Oh, boy. So anyway, that's the American Kratom Association. Thank you so much, Dave Herman. And like I said, if anything comes up with this, and if anybody else, if you're a listener, you've had a bad experience with Kratom, give us a call too. We'd like to hear about that. I'll put you on the air. And if you have some kind of reason why you think this stuff should be banned, like I said, I'm a private investigator. I got my nose to the street. I deal with a lot of people facing jail time in the system. I don't know if anybody was abusing Kratom, and this is their, jonesing on Kratom. I hear people talking about it now and then. Usually it's about trying to get off addictions. They're using it. So thank you so much, guys. That's the American Kratom Association, Dave Herman. If you like the show, be sure and check out OppermanReport.com, where we have exclusive content. There's a member section you could join. Exclusive content. There's extra shows in there, too, that you won't find Friday night or Saturday night or Monday to Saturday at 8 a.m. drive time. This is exclusive stuff only to members in the member section. A lot of great shows in there. Just did a little video promotion of a show we just uploaded there about, what's his name? Dr. Dale Griffiths, who is the occult expert who testified at the West Memphis 3 trial. And that's up there in the member section, too. It's been up there a while, but I'm promoting it. It's his last interview he's ever done. He's done very few interviews his whole life. And people only know about him from what they saw on those reality TV shows, Paradise Lost 1, 2, and 3, and the little clip of him testifying there. But he was ruled, the judge did rule him, approved him as an expert witness, and he does have excellent credentials besides what you see in that stupid documentary reality show. And he was a college professor. He taught criminal justice at college. He was a police captain, on and on and on. So thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you want to check out Kratom, American Kratom Association, and our guest, Dave Herman. Remember, all these shows on Awake are brought to you by emailrevealer.com. You can go to emailrevealer.com and get a copy of my book, How to Become a Successful Private Investigator. You also do all the kind of different services for you. Online dating service investigations called an online infidelity investigation. And that's where you give us your husband or your boyfriend, your girlfriend's email address, and we trace it back to their online dating websites. And we return a list of all the dating sites that email is registered to. We can expand our night investigation and trace it back to porn sites, escort service sites, swinger sites, gambling websites, and even prescription drug websites, and all kinds of digital forensics, computer and cell phone digital forensics, where we can recover deleted content from an email or a hard drive and produce a report for you that you can use in court. That's emailrevealer.com, or you can contact me at oppermaninvestigations@gmail.com. Subash Technosis is a search engine optimization and website design company located in India. So you know you're going to save a lot of money and get top quality service to boot. They offer all kinds of services, business process outsourcing, data entry, banking BPO services, recruitment process outsourcing, software testing, offshore research networking, customer care, press release content writing and distribution, and much, much more. They offer website development, e-commerce solutions, mobile responsive designs. Now, I've personally worked with Subhash for over 10 years. This is the man that puts out my press releases. They've done work on my websites, so I can personally recommend SubhashTechnosis.com. You can find a link to Subhash Technosis at OppermanReport.com and also awakeradio.us.
People are waking up. They're standing up to those pushing pesticides and GMOs as safe alternatives for a starving world. What about your crap? I tell you, I'd rather eat dirt. So I drink Life Change Tea. It's an herbal drink, cleansing my body of toxic sludge and nasty chemicals, and of course, ridding the intruders that are hidden in my so-called food. And by the way, Life Change Tea is non-GMO and organic. No fillers, no yuck. Just a great defense against you-know-what. May the supplement force awaken you. Don't fall to the dark side. Sorry. I went to the movies last night. Anyway, enough said. How do you get that herbal drink and change your life? GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. You will awaken. You will get stronger, and you might even lose a bit of weight. So awaken to Life Change Tea and the many one-of-a-kind supplements at GetTheTea.com. That's GetTheTea.com. May the supplement force be with you.